Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm kicking off a reading vlog where I read the books that caused you guys to break your book buying bans. I went over on the community tab here on YouTube, asked you guys to submit books that caused you to break your book buying bans. I'm going to be selecting a few, reading them, and sharing if I think it was worth it to buy these books and break your book buying bans. I am going to be prioritizing the books that are on my physical TBR, but if I have to, I will check some books out from the library, and if not the library, then I will go and purchase a book. Break my own book buying ban. Let's see if I can find something that I have on my physical TBR. Ooh, I have this one. This is a submission from Mackenzie MC. Their comment says, I was going to wait to buy Veronica Roth's When Among Crows later in the year, but when I was at Barnes & Noble yesterday, I saw one copy and felt it was a sign. I received a copy of this book earlier this year, and I've been really wanting to read this book. I've been really wanting to get back to Veronica Roth in general, because I feel like I've only read her YA stuff, and I really want to read some of her more adult stuff, so I'm super excited to read this. I'm not going to be reading the description because rumor has it that the description of this book gives too much away and just kind of like ruins the story, which I feel that way about a lot of novellas. I feel like it's hard to give a description for a novella because the stories are already so short, so to kind of like explain what's going down in a way that doesn't spoil anything can kind of be challenging, but I'm going to try to give you guys a description later in this video once I've read this book. Let's dive in. It's time for reading. I made it a little over halfway through the book. I'm on chapter 7, page 90. Honestly, if I didn't have quite a few things to get accomplished today, I would be chugging this book right on down the hatch today because that's how much I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm gripped. She's got me in a chokehold. I need to know what happens next. I'm really enjoying the vibes so far. It has that very like Chicago city atmosphere to it with hints of magic here and there. And it is a rather like dark and grim story, to be honest. I was surprised by that aspect of it. It has like a very fairy tale vibe to it, like a dark, eerie fairy tale. And I just feel like Veronica Roth, with this in particular, has sort of cracked the code when it comes to novellas. Because while I could see this being expanded into a novel, it doesn't need to be expanded into a novel. And I feel like she gives you just enough information surrounding every little aspect of the story that you feel satisfied while you're reading it. There's only a few things that I would be like, I would like a little bit more with that. I think some of the magic world building aspects I think I would like a little bit more detail on, but I'm gonna hold off on fully committing to that opinion until I reach the end of the book and kind of get a full picture and have a better understanding for everything. But I'm excited to keep reading this and to see where it goes. I have a few errands to run today. I need to film Epic Adaptations, which is my series over on the Epic Reads YouTube channel where I talk about YA book to movie adaptations that are happening. I have plans to watch Deadpool 2 tonight. I have been trying to watch and rewatch some movies that are going to be important for Deadpool 3. Some of them have been rewatches and some of them have been first time watches, though to be honest I needed a refresher on a lot of these movies because a lot of them I honestly didn't remember that much from them. But one of the ones that I watched for the first time was Logan. I watched it over the weekend and it was so good. I mean, I had heard that it was good, but I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. It was such an emotional journey. I feel like my heart was like ripped out of my chest, thrown on the ground, and then the little girl from the movie came and just like hit it with a hammer. Like, that's how it felt. Maybe she stabbed it. That would make more sense. But anyway, that's the plan. I'm feeling like a little iced coffee moment, so I might go grab myself a little iced coffee for today. All right, let's drop the accent and get to going. Finished When Among Crows, which means that I can finally give you guys somewhat of a description, even though I'm going to be a little bit ambiguous. I don't want to give too much away. After reading the novella and then going back and reading the description, I was like, I understand why people are like, do not read the description, don't do it. I feel that way with a lot of novellas though. Like, I feel like they're so short that the description just gives away too much about the story. Like, once you read the description, you can pretty much tell what the book is going to be about. We're following this character named Demeter. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. He is on a quest. Albeit initially it is a rather vague quest, but you kind of pick up on the pieces as you move along. So just trust the process if you decide to pick this one up and read it. Don't just be like, I don't know what's going on here. Just hold on for a little bit. I promise you'll get to the point where you understand things. I mean, it's rather short, so you do get to the point pretty quickly. This quest requires him to track down Baba Yaga and have him help him as a part of one of the tasks that he needs to accomplish. As this is being carried out, we see this sort of force being put together with all these unlikely pals coming to join the journey along the way. I ended up really liking this. It was very easy to digest. I feel like the pacing was rapid and the themes were very easy to understand. Sometimes I feel like novellas can be doing way too much instead of just having like a clear focus of what they're trying to accomplish. But this one does a good job of finding that happy spot and just like getting to the point and not bringing in like way too many elements. It brings in interesting bits of magic and creatures. I feel like the creatures themselves were my favorite part of this book. Our main character, Demeter, comes from a family that hunts down these magical creatures that basically feed on human feelings and emotions. We're introduced to quite a few creatures throughout this book. I wouldn't be able to name them off the top of my head because they had interesting names, but one of them feeds off of fear. I will say that I felt like the magic needed to be expanded on a bit. I wasn't so mad about the magical creatures themselves because I felt like they were kind of like easy to understand, but there were definitely aspects of like the magic element that came into play that I was like, huh, what's going on here? I get that that's a sacrifice being made for the shortness, so I wasn't too mad about it. And I will say that I also felt like the character connections and bonds. Not my fridge deciding to be so loud right now. Calm down, sis. Calm down. I thought that the character bonds and connections needed a little bit more expanding, but the characters individually I felt like I got to know really well, and that makes me very happy. I think it's easy when reading a popular author's books to kind of like compare them to their most popular book. This in particular was Divergent, obviously, but the two are not comparable. The only thing that like slightly makes them similar is the fact that they take place in some form of Chicago. The writing feels different, the characters feel different, and if you haven't picked up anything by V. Roth in a very long time, I would definitely recommend checking out When Among Crows. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really had a good time with it, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you really like novellas. I will say, if you're not a huge fan of like short books or novellas, then maybe don't check this one out. I have a bit of a devastating update for you guys. In my last vlog, I talked about these jams that I got from Aldi, and I went back to get more because they were so freaking good. They're like the summer jams. One was like a pineapple one was a raspberry one. Went back to Aldi, and guess what? They're gone. They're sold out. I'm very upset about it. Very, very upset. But that's the thing with Aldi, is that like once you see something there, you might never see it ever again. And this was obviously a very seasonal item. It was a summery jam, so I don't expect them to have that much stock of it, but like I need them to bring it back. With that being said, I bought a ton of jams yesterday, so let's do a little taste test situation. Yes, I will be dipping directly into the jars because these are going to be eaten by me and me only. This one is just a strawberry jam. This one is honestly just in case the other ones suck. I know that I can always rely on a strawberry jam being like basic and tasting exactly like what it is, strawberry jam. Yeah. It tastes like strawberry jam. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, knocking it 1 star for being basic. I bet you guys didn't know that you were clicking on a jam review video. I got this amber ale, which I believe is probably some kind of alcohol. I don't drink, so I don't know. Amber ale pineapple jalapeno jam. I'm hoping that this one tastes similar to the pineapple one that I got from Aldi, but that one was like sweet, and I feel like this one's gonna be a little bit more sweet and spicy, which is fine, but I don't think it'll compare, and that makes me sad. Let's give it a try. Interesting. Not bad. Not my favorite. Definitely does not taste like the Aldi pineapple coconut one. Not that I was expecting it to be honest, but I wanted a little bit more sweetness. Another safety one, we've got blackberry jam. Cheers. Tastes like blackberry and sugar, just what I needed, just what I wanted. And then lastly, I got this apple butter. I feel like I only got one really interesting one, and that's the pineapple one. I'm proving myself to be very basic. Cheers down the hatch. Holy moly, that's good. That's real good. This one might be my next hyperfixation. Okay, enough about jam. Let's pick up my next read. I forgot to mention if I consider this a flop or a bop, but hopefully you guys used context clues and could figure out the fact that this is in fact a bop. I would in fact break my book buying ban for this book. For me, I'm placing this in my novellas Hall of Fame category. I definitely recommend checking it out. Now for the next book in this vlog, I'm super excited about this next book. This next submission comes from Jordan Pins, and they said Lonely Castle Castle in the Sky, which I assume they mixed up Lonely Castle in the Mirror with Castle in the Sky, the Studio Ghibli film. I googled just to make sure that Lonely Castle in the Sky wasn't actually a book, and I couldn't find anything, so I'm going to assume that this is the book that they were talking about. They just got those two mixed up, which is totally something that I would do. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for so long, and I'm super excited to get around to it. Though I will say that I mentioned this in a 5-star predictions TBR video, and a lot of people were like, I felt pretty meh about it. It was pretty average. I didn't really like it. So that obviously didn't make me want to read it, which I feel like that happens often when I am like, I'm excited about this book. Some people will be like, I read that and I didn't really love it, which is fine. I don't care if people share their opinions. I want people to share their opinions. But sometimes that comes at the cost of me lowering books on my TBR, which is what happened in this situation. That's why I've been putting it off for a while now. This is about a group of kids who are swept away to this magical castle, and at this castle they are given a challenge that is to find this hidden room. They're given these clues and they must use the clues to figure out where exactly this hidden room is. There is a catch though. If they don't leave the castle by 5 p.m. they will be punished. I'm super excited about this. I believe there was an anime movie adaptation of this book, so I will definitely be watching that immediately after I finish this book because I love a good anime. I love an anime movie. There's so many great anime movies out there, and I'm not only talking about Studio Ghibli films, because I feel like when people think anime movies, they immediately associate it with Studio Ghibli, but like, no, there's so many other companies that have come out with so many great anime movies. So just a short little rant there. I love Studio Ghibli, but they're not the only ones coming out with great movies, great anime movies. Anyway, I'm excited to get to this. Without further ado, let's get to reading. Unfortunate news, my friends. I'm currently editing this video and I lost the first chunk of footage where I talk about Lonely Castle in the Mirror, my thoughts on the first chunk of the book. I know that initially I was not enjoying this book, which will give you context to the next vlog clip, but essentially I just did not feel like the beginning of this book was really committing to the concept of the castle itself and the challenge. I was feeling really underwhelmed by it because it was not really delivering on that concept. It was mostly just about these kids coming together, discussing the issues that they have, things that are causing them to not want to go to school. That's all I can remember as to how I was feeling about the first chunk of this book, but hopefully this gives you some context on what happens in the next clip. So roll the clip, on to the next clip. I have a lot to update you guys on, but first and foremost, I finished Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And when I tell you I did a full-on flip on how I was initially feeling about this book, I mean a full-on flippity-doo-dah day. That's not to say that I don't still have criticisms of this book just because I ended up enjoying it. I still have quite a few criticisms, specifically in terms of just pacing, and also I think overall this book is just a little bit too long, and I think that that lends to the pacing. There were several moments throughout this book where I was just like, this could have been condensed so easily and it wouldn't have affected the story that much. We're spending most of the book inside the head of the main character and seeing all the things that she's been through and is currently going through, and then her meeting all these kids at the castle and learning their stories. And we watch as these characters come together and connect and grow together, and there is a lot of beauty in that, but I just felt like a lot of the stepping stones could have been sped up a little bit because the pacing is just at a sluggish pace and it just did not work for me. I also was just hoping that there would have been much more of a competitive nature in the kids being at the castle trying to track down the wish, but it never really like escalated to that point. But I recognize the fact that like ultimately it's not about the competition. The castle itself is just used as a tool to like bring the kids together and then also at points kind of push the story along. So I am not mad at the castle concept. I just went in with certain expectations. Those expectations weren't met, but I was able to kind of like understand what it was trying to do, and I appreciated what it did. Did it take too long to get to the interesting, exciting bits? Yes, it did, fully. But I ended up really liking the place that it went and some of the twists and turns that came along towards the end. I think if you're going to pick up this book and read it, don't go into it with the mindset that I went into it with. Don't get overly excited about the castle bit. Don't get overly excited about the competition, and just go into it knowing that it's much more about these characters coming together and connecting over similar experiences. I ended up watching the anime adaptation almost immediately after finishing this book, and it was so delightful. I really enjoyed it. I thought that they did a really good job. I feel like I still had similar problems with the anime that I did with this. Like, it just moves at a slower pace, and again, there's nothing wrong with a slow pace, I guess, but I just think that for this story in particular, I would have liked to have gotten to a certain point quicker, and I feel like it would have been better had we gotten to a certain point at a faster pace. So overall, I would give Lonely Castle and the Mirror a 4 out of 5 stars. That's the rating that I'm landing on with this book. Let's see, what else have I not talked about? I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and it was fantastic. It was so freaking good. There were so many things that happened in that movie that I just was like not expecting. I will say that like there were moments where I was getting fatigued by all the comedy, because it's one of those things where it just like doesn't feel like it really lets up. I mean, there are moments where like serious things are happening, obviously, but for the most part I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like there's just so many jokes being made, and I need to like let up and be able to breathe and process the jokes a little bit. That's my only critique of it. Honestly, it was such a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. The action scenes were fantastic, and again, there were just so many like unexpected elements brought into that movie that I freaking loved. It was so good. I had sushi with my family. That was delicious. It was nice catching up with them. And yeah, that's about it. Let's go find my next read on my bookshelf and talk about what my final read is going to be for this video. I'm a little bit too excited about my last read for this video, or my last reads, because I may be reading 2 books. They're from the same series though. This submission comes from Gracie's Faves, and it is a Psalm for the Wild Built and a Prayer for the Crowned Shy. I've had a Psalm for the Wild Built on my TBR for quite some time now, so I'm super excited that this is going to push me to finally read it. This book takes place in a world where humans once utilized robots to help them out with various activities, but then the robots began to gain awareness, self-awareness, and the humans didn't like utilizing them because of that fact, and so they allowed the robots to just kind of like go off and do their own thing. We're following our main character Dex, who is on a bit of a journey in life, just trying to figure out what they want to do, and they end up in this position as a tea monk. So they're going around giving people tea, learning about different people, and on that journey they end up encountering a robot, and robots and humans have not really interacted in a long time, ever since they parted ways. So it's been a very long time since a human and a robot have interacted. They kind of go on a bit of a journey together, I believe, and we just kind of see what the robots have been up to and what the humans have been up to and what their lives look like now. I'm very intrigued by this concept. I feel like this is a book that could either really work for me or not work for me at all, just depending on how the plot progresses and how much it's able to execute in a short amount of time, because this is a novella series, so I'm very eager to see where I end up feeling about it. I'm going to do my best to read these back to back, so without further ado, let's get to reading. Boom, 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 pow! finished a psalm for the Wild-Built over the weekend. Tell me why I want to keep calling it a psalm for the well-built. I don't know why I keep wanting to say that, but it's a psalm for the Wild-Built, and I freaking loved it. It was so delightful. It's not necessarily like a 5-star read for me. I think there were bits of the writing that I didn't love, but then there were other parts of the writing that like I did really love. What is my shirt doing? That's confusing. This shirt is super wrinkly. Wrinkle, crinkle. But it's like living its own life, doing its own thing. I can't control it. Is this shirt inside out? No, it's not. Do I have it buttoned wrong? I definitely had it buttoned wrong. Anyway, I really freaking loved this book. It was so delightful. It was so comforting. I feel like the story is all about like figuring out your path in life and what you want to do and just exploring all the options in front of you. It's a story of change and allowing yourself to carve a new path. And I feel like this is a book that I honestly needed like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was in a place where I was just like, what is my life? What do I want to do with my life? What is my purpose? I feel like this is sort of a love letter to that mindset. I really could have used it 2 years ago, but I still feel like it was a very valuable read, and I really enjoyed the process of reading it. It was so comforting seeing Dex's story and just seeing the path that they carved out for themselves. And I just love the world itself. It sort of has this like soft feeling to it because like it's set in a world where everyone is looking out for everyone. Everyone is willing to help everyone around them. And there was just sort of this like safe nature to the world, and I really appreciated that. I feel like that kind of led this book into like a cozy lane because it's really not like high stakes or intense. It's very subtle in its nature, and I just really appreciated that. I feel like this is a book that I wouldn't normally like because I tried to get into cozy fantasy recently, and I don't know how I fully feel about it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I haven't talked about this book on my channel yet, but I was going to do a vlog where I was reading Legends and Lattes, and I didn't really connect with Legends and Lattes yet. I still haven't finished it. I have like 30 pages left. I need to just like plow through the end because maybe the end I will appreciate it more. It's not that the book is bad. I don't think it's a bad book. I just don't think that I connected that well with it. And so I kind of assumed that that meant that cozy fantasy wasn't for me. But I think that this one might be considered cozy fantasy, cozy sci-fi. And this one was absolutely done so well, in my opinion. And I think the reason that I really fell in love with this book is because it really does a good job of having very distinct themes and exploring those themes. I also loved this interesting dynamic between a human and a robot. I loved seeing their interactions and how they were kind of like opening up their minds to a different way of life because they both lead different lives, obviously. And that was just such a fun experience. I highlighted so many things, but there's one thing in particular that just like hit me so hard that I want to read for you guys, if that's okay. Will you allow that? It's a good world, a beautiful world. It's not perfect, but we fixed so much. We made a good place, struck a good balance, and yet every effing day in the city, I woke up hollow and just tired, you know? So I did something else instead. I packed up everything and I learned a brand new thing from scratch. And gods, I worked hard for it. I worked really hard. I thought if I can do just that, if I can do it well, I'll feel okay. And guess what? I do it well. I'm good at what I do. I make people happy. I make people feel better. And yet I still wake up tired. Like something's missing. I tried talking to friends and family and nobody got it. So I stopped bringing it up. And then I just stopped talking to them altogether because I couldn't explain. And I was tired of pretending like everything was fine. I went to doctors to make sure I wasn't sick, that my head was okay. I read books and monastic text and everything I could find. I threw myself into my work. I went to all the places that used to inspire me. I listened to music and looked at art. I exercised and had sex and got plenty of sleep and ate my vegetables, and still, something is missing. Something is off. So how effing spoiled am I then? How effing broken? What is wrong with me that I can have everything I could ever want and have ever asked for and still wake up in the morning feeling like every day is a slog? Like, there have been days where I have felt that way and I've not ever been able to put it into words. So it was just like, it just hit me so hard when that came up. I was like, oh my God, I have felt that emotion and this is bringing up those emotions. Anyway, I ended up giving a Psalm for the Wild-Built 4 stars, a 4 out of 5 stars. I really love this book and I'm super excited to continue on and see what happens next in the journey with A Prayer for the Crown Shy. I'm taking this book with me today to jury duty. I don't know if I will actually read any of it because I am like an anxious bean. This is my first time ever having to participate in jury duty. I've been called in the past, but it ended up getting canceled. So this will be my first time going and seeing what the whole process is like. And anytime that I have to do something new like this, something that I've never done before, I struggle mentally. I'm like, so anxious, but I've been told that it's not that big of a deal. There's also a chance that I will be dismissed and I won't have to do it, but just going there, the unfamiliarity of it all is just giving me anxiety. So I will update you guys when I can on the jury duty things. But with that being said, it's time for reading. I will update you guys when I'm done with A Prayer for the Crown Shy. I'm back from jury duty. I have finished Prayer for the Crowned Shy. Before I talk about this though, I just want to talk a little bit about my jury duty situation. I honestly am glad for the experience of jury duty. I just wish that I would have been on a much more interesting case. It was a civil case, and basically it was a dispute over a gate. This neighborhood group, HOA, I guess if you will, had put a gate on this church's property, and it really upset some neighbors in the neighborhood nearby because they would use this specific street as a through street to get to the church and also to like access other parts of the city. So these neighbors were suing the HOA and were also suing the church because the church didn't want to sue the HOA in order to get rid of the gate. Even though it was the church's property and they could have easily taken down the gate, they decided not to because they believe in not suing their neighbors, and the HOA is their neighbors, even though it was affecting other neighbors in the neighborhood. It was just such a weird case, and honestly I was like having to edit everything that was happening in my mind as like an episode of The Office. Like that's how I was kind of like playing it out in my head because it was just such a boring situation. It did get like a little heated from time to time. Like there would be outbreaks of like arguments and whatnot, and then also some of the witnesses that came through were honestly pretty comical. So overall, not mad at my experience. I don't think it was a case that should have lasted 3 days. I think, you know, by the second day itself, by the end of the second day, I was just like, can we wrap this up? But no, we bled over into a third day. But anyway, like I said, I ended up finishing A Prayer for the Crowned Shy, and I think I like this even more than the first book, which kind of shocked me because typically with a sequel, I don't enjoy it as much as the first book, but I enjoy this one so much more, and I think it might have been because I was used to the characters and used to the world, and I feel like the things that we got in this book about each of the characters, I really loved. I feel like I'm leaving this one feeling stronger about the robot, whereas the first one, like I really liked the robot, but like I didn't love, like diehard love, but this one I'm like leaving it being a diehard fan of the robot. I keep calling him Robot. His name is Moscap, but like he's a robot, so I will just call him Robot. And then the first book itself already felt really cozy, but this one felt like next level cozy for some reason. Like this one just felt so warm and comforting, and I think this book does a good job of giving you this hopeful feeling. We live in a world where it's hard to even find glimmers of hope on a day-to-day basis, and it's nice to have a book that gives you a break from the sort of stresses of the world and the sort of looming gloom of the world, and just kind of serves you with comfort, ease, and just a peaceful nature. Like I so appreciate that about these books. Side note, I had no idea what Crown Shy was going into this one, and it's such a cute phenomenon. Like I'm kind of obsessed with it, and I feel like it's something that I'm going to be looking out for when I'm out in nature now. I ended up giving A Prayer for the Crowned Shy a 4 out of 5 stars. And with reading this, we have reached the end of the video. I'm not going to go through each book and say if I feel like it was worth it for you guys to break your book buying bans for these books, which I feel like you'll know the answer already after you've heard me talk about all of these books throughout this video, because they were in fact all bops. None of them flopped. I was afraid that one was going to full on flop, but then when I got to the second half, I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. I get the hype. I'm gonna rank the books from best to worst, even though I enjoyed all of these books. The best, in my opinion, is A Monk and a Robot series. I love this series now. I hope we're getting more books in this series. I'm not 100% sure on that though. Also, I just got so bright. Let me turn that down a little bit. If you're looking for a soft sci-fi situation, I would highly recommend checking out these books. I understand why somebody would break their book buying ban for these books. Then I would say When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. This has me wanting to get back to Veronica Roth and read more of her books. I know that she's released quite a few things since her Divergent hype, but I have not gotten around to a lot of it, so I'm definitely looking forward to picking up more from Veronica Roth. Lastly, we've got Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I would say that the first bit of this book I didn't really click with, but as I read on and got to the second half, it kind of fell into place for me. And I definitely understand why people love this book. It was for sure falling into flop territory, but it did a full flipperoo on me and ended up being a bop. I really enjoyed it. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have read these books and what your thoughts are on them. If not, let me know down below in the comments a book that caused you to break your book buying ban. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!